Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to a brand new episode of underrated Doctor Who stories. So if you don't know how this series works, basically I take 2 stories from the new series and 2 from the classic series and I put them on a list because I feel like they're underrated. Now these are just my opinions, you can think they're overrated or just plain crap or whatever, but these are just a few stories that I think should be spoken about a bit more, or if not more frequently then at least in a more positive way. So without further ado, let's get into it. So as most of you are probably aware, this guy right here is my favourite Doctor, and even though some of the best stuff in Doctor Who's history is from the 4th Doctor's era, there's still some hidden gems in there as well. So first of all, I want to talk about the Invasion of Time. Now I love this story for a few reasons. In a way it's kind of 2 separate stories because the first 4 parts are dealing with the Doctor, somewhat out of character, trying to take over Gallifrey so he can help another race, the Vardens, swoop in and take control. And then after that we get a Sontaran story. And for the most part this thing is set on Gallifrey. Now a lot of people say that this story is quite crap and it's quite boring. In terms of the production value, yes, this is quite poor. And in terms of what is actually going on in the first 4 parts, as in why is the Doctor acting the way that he is, that isn't made fully clear in the story. You sort of have to read other articles about it or comments about it to fully get it. But once you know what they're actually doing and where they're going with it, it fully makes sense. Now the first 4 parts with the Vardens is quite interesting purely because of the Doctor himself. He's out of character. This is not the Doctor that we know and love. He's barking orders at people, he's threatening people. Leela has been exiled from Gallifrey. He doesn't want her anywhere near her, and if she asks too many questions, well, K9 starts threatening her as well. The Vardens themselves are a pretty crap villain. They're essentially tinfoil. I mean, they look better with the special effects added onto them on the DVD, but they're still sort of nothing Doctor Who villains. The main villain really for the first 4 parts is the Doctor, and that's something that I wish we saw more of in Doctor Who, not just the classic series or the new series, just all over. The Doctor not being himself and completely out of character. It's surprisingly effective. But then we get one of the best cliffhangers in Doctor Who history at the end of part 4, and then we get a Sontaran story. So because of what the Doctor was doing before with the Vardens, he had to let down the shield over Gallifrey. I can't remember the exact name of it. It's something like something barrier. But in doing that, it also allows for the Sontarans to swoop in and now invade Gallifrey. So now the Doctor, now a good guy again, has to get rid of them. Now there is some interesting things that they do in this 2-part section. It is mainly though a chase throughout the TARDIS, which I suppose if anything it's fun. Seeing more of the TARDIS interior is always a good thing, even if it is basically an abandoned hospital. But at least we get to see the swimming pool. But this story is also known for being the departure of Louise Jameson, aka Leela. Now the reason for her departure, it not only pisses her off, but it pisses me off as well, and a lot of fans. The way she leaves in the Invasion of Time does not make sense. I won't spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but I'm pretty sure if you watch it and you get to that ending you will also call bullshit. But this is an underrated story. I feel like a lot of people just don't give it the credit it deserves, because for 6 parts and a low budget it is a lot of fun. So enough of the 4th Doctor for now. I'm going to get back to him, but now we're going to go to the latest Doctor, which is Peter Capaldi, and talk about Under the Lake Before the Flood. This is easily one of my favourite Capaldi stories, and I know the consensus is that it's good, but I don't really hear people talking about it. I put this on my top 10 best Doctor Who stories of the new series, and I stand by that. I bloody love this thing. It does something that Doctor Who doesn't do too much of, and that's actually play with time itself. And I know what you're thinking, how the fuck does a show about time travel not show elements of time travel in it enough? Well, what I mean is we start off in the first part in one time period, and then we go to the second part and it's a prequel to the first part, but the Doctor being there in the first place in the earlier time zone actually causes what happens in the present. Did that make sense? I don't know, but I think I got it. Either way, it's messing around with time. And we get some creepy ghost monsters. They have literally like no eyes whatsoever. They're actually quite chilling, and they're all sort of whispering something as well. You don't really know what's fully going on. So not only is it a time travel loop thing, it's this weird ghost mystery, and it's also a base under siege. It's like 3 types of Doctor Who story rolled into one, and yet somehow it manages to balance that incredibly well. Now the cliffhanger to part 1 is the Doctor dying, and that's something that I'm absolutely sick of at this point. Moffat just keeps doing that, and I know he didn't specifically write this, but I mean in his era he's always doing the Doctor dies type thing. But one thing I will say, even though it is a repetitive trope by the time this was broadcast, it actually is quite effective in this story. I mean, you'd fucking hope, at least you get it right now. There's also a deaf actress in this story, and they utilise her really, really well also. Oh, and also good news, Clara is in it, which is bad news, but the good news is she isn't overbearing and an absolutely obnoxious cunt, so that's a bonus. God, I still hate Clara. It's been years, and I still hate Clara. You know, if Capaldi had more writing like this, I think a lot of people would approve of his Doctor and his era a lot more, but unfortunately this is one of the rare occasions where Capaldi is given a very, very decent script. And like I say, I feel it's underrated just because people don't talk about it enough. So moving back to this guy, and I'm going to go with his final story, which is Lagavulin. Now if you've seen my other video where I talk about the best regeneration stories, in my opinion, then you'll know that I put Lagavulin on there, and I stand by it because I think it is easily one of the greatest regeneration stories that we have ever had. But it's more than that. It's just an incredibly good story that people just seem to gloss over. Maybe it's just because I'm a 4th Doctor fanboy, I don't know. But basically the reason why I love this story is, well, the music for one is incredibly atmospheric and just sets the funeral type tone that this story is trying to portray beautifully. Adric is good in this story as well, he's not absolutely terrible. And in fact, his relationship with the 4th Doctor is actually quite cool. I wish we got to see more of it. The idea of the Watcher introduced in this story is incredibly convoluted, incredibly complicated, and I don't think any Doctor Who fan has somehow managed to grasp it perfectly. However, it is effective, and when you're watching this story, it just works. Not only that, in season 18, a lot of people say that Tom Baker didn't really give his all. But what I will say is in this story, there is a definite sense of urgency, and there's a definite sense of impending doom upon the 4th Doctor's face when you're watching this story. We get Anthony Ainley's full debut as the Master as well, and he hits the ground running. And there is some really interesting scientific dialogue and ideas that are put into this story, like entropy and whatnot. The whole idea of the Doctor trying to get a police box to measure it, or then trying to flood the Master out of the TARDIS in the Thames, we can overlook that. And when it gets to the end of the story and the 4th Doctor goes, it's quite emotional. For me, this was a brilliant way to end off Tom's era as the Doctor. And now we go to my last story, and I debated mentioning this, I really did. But I'm going to head back to the new series, and I'm going to say Love and Monsters.
You serious?
Now, some of you might be angrily typing, I can sense it already, but let me explain myself here. So why is Love and Monsters on this list? Well, for a bloody good laugh and a bit of banter, first of all. And second of all, because it's not that bad. On my top 10 list of worst Doctor Who stories of the new series, I still get people commenting now saying, why didn't you put Love and Monsters on here? I also get a lot saying, why did you put The End of Time on here? And because I bloody well wanted to, that's why. But no, in all seriousness, the reason why I would say Love and Monsters is underrated is because I understand what they're trying to do with it. Is it the best episode ever? Absolutely not. Is it quite cheesy? Is it quite cringy? Yes to both of those things. But do you have fun watching it? You absolutely do. The character of Elton is really likeable, and the whole oral sex with a pavement slab, I can't believe I just said that sentence. But the whole idea of that at the end, yes, that is weird. Jackie Tyler hitting on him, that is weird. Peter Kay as a big green blob is also quite, well, it's not that weird. But this story is just a lot of fun. They actually give Elton quite a weighted backstory. The whole Linda group as well, they're really fleshed out as characters also. Peter Kay is camp as shit, but it's just so funny to see him. Should Doctor Who's monsters and villains be funny? Well, Strax. That's something actually, I've just thought of this point now. If you're someone out there who's like, oh, the Absorbaloff, oh, cheese, and yet you love Strax, just fuck off. You can't say shit about Peter Kay as the Absorbaloff if you love Strax, because one is a clear joke and a love letter to Doctor Who, the other is just an embarrassment to the Sontarans, one of the best Doctor Who villains. Yeah, I said it, Sontarans are good. Why am I getting so off topic? But no, this episode is not that bad. I imagine a lot of people just watched it 1 or 2 times years ago and just assumed it was going to be bad now. Whereas if you actually go and rewatch it, it isn't actually that terrible. And for that reason, I would say it's underrated. I'm not saying it's more than a 5 out of 10, but it is still really enjoyable to watch. And more people just need to give it a chance instead of just slating it outright. See, for me, the people that are in this story are like the Doctor Who fans. The ones who were desperate to get it back on the air when it was off air, obviously. Because why would they want to get it back on air if it was still like, what the fuck are you on about? Whereas you look at someone like Osgood and people say, oh, that's an actual Doctor Who fan. I think Osgood is more offensive than these guys. It's just harmless fun. It's not flat out terrible. Fear Her is probably the worst story of series 2. And I know a lot of people aren't going to agree with me on that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's my channel and my opinion, so whatever. But let me know what you guys think. What do you think of the stories that I mentioned on this list? Do you agree that they're underrated? I imagine Love and Monsters is going to be a big talking point. But anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it. Subscribe if you want to see more Doctor Who related content on my channel. And if you did any of the things that I mentioned then, I would love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. What the fuck was that?